Shogun is positioned to become the television sensation of 2024 for all the good reasons. Having been adapted in the 80s for NBC, the FX adaptation has finally arrived after a long wait, receiving overwhelmingly positive reviews. This historical epic is based on James Clavell's beloved novel of the same name, which gives a profound understanding of 17th century Japan. Clavell's novel documents the story of John Blackthorne, an English navigator, or pilot as they were known back in that era, who made history as the first Englishman to set foot in Japan. Blackthorne's journey was not a peaceful one, because although he went to Japan to further his trade, fate led him astray, thrusting him into a volatile situation of feudal politics after the death of the reigning Japanese ruler left behind a young heir and a council tasked with guiding the nation. While Clavell's novel is a work of fiction with symbolic significance, it still remains grounded in real historical events, which means that the character of John Blackthorne draws its inspiration from William Adams, the actual Englishman to first reach Japan. Adams went on to play a significant role in Japan's international relations, and even became a samurai. But how? Without wasting another minute, let's find out everything about the real John Blackthorne. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Early life of William Adams before he arrived in Japan. Although most of Adams' early life is a mystery to us, we know that William Adams was born in Gillingham, Kent, England in September 1564. However, these insights into his upbringing are gleaned from a letter written by Adams himself, addressed to unknown friends and countrymen during his time in the Japanese port of Hirado in 1611. Following his father's passing when he was just 12, William Adams was an apprentice under Master Nicholas Diggins at Limehouse, where he learned the art of shipbuilding, astronomy, and navigation over a span of 12 years. His journey then led him to serve in the Royal Navy until the age of 24, coinciding with the historic events of the Spanish Armada. Sometime later, he got married and had children, before he transitioned to the role of a pilot for the Morocco Company in 1588. Adams went on to further his maritime experiences by joining Sir Francis Drake's navy, though his direct involvement in the battle remains uncertain. Sadly, Adams was left without work post-England's victory, which led to the disbandment of the Queen's fleet, so he joined the Barbary Company for a decade before turning his sights towards the Dutch fleets bound for Asia. It was actually via the Dutch that Adams got to Japan. Now, the Protestant Dutch were in a long war with the Spanish, and in 1581, King Philip II of Spain also became the King of Portugal. This made things difficult for Dutch merchants who used to get their Asian goods from Lisbon. When Lisbon's harbors closed, the Dutch had to find a new way to get Asian goods, so they decided to go directly to Asia. The war with Catholic Spain made the Protestant Dutch and English sailors allies, and in 1598, William Adams became a navigator in a fleet of Dutch ships heading to the East Indies.
You never know when to give up.
We'll reach the Japans.
William Adams' journey to Japan. So, in 1598, 5 ships left Rotterdam in the Dutch Republic, but only one of them managed to reach Japan in 1600. This journey was extremely challenging and dangerous, as their original plan was to sail through the Strait of Magellan, raid Spanish ships and settlements in South America, and then sell the looted goods in Asia before returning to Europe using the same route. Sadly, it didn't work out how they wanted to, because out of the 5 ships, 1 returned to Holland, 1 got caught by the Spanish, another by the Portuguese, and 1 was lost in a storm. Eventually, only 1 ship remained, the Liefde, which reached Japan in April 1600, 2 years after they set sail. Out of the 100 men on the ship, only 23 managed to survive the staggering 19 months at sea. Like we see in the first episode of the miniseries, in reality too, these men were suffering from malnutrition and diseases. Out of the 23 that managed to live, only 9 made it to the shore of Kyushu, Japan, and William Adams was among the fortunate ones who survived. Upon arrival, the crew were met with the alert Japanese locals and surprised Portuguese Jesuits, as the Portuguese had been the only Europeans in Japan until then, and hence preferred to keep it that way. They strongly argued that the Leifta's crew were pirates, a charge that could have led to their execution. The Jesuits and other Catholic members hated William due to their religious differences. Given he was a Protestant and their countries had been at war for so long, they immediately disapproved of him. Even the rivalry we saw on the show between the Catholics and Blackthorne mirrored the religious conflicts seen in the 30-year War in Europe during the mid-1600s, albeit on a smaller scale. In real life, the Jesuits saw William as a threat to their influence over the Japanese people and the promotion of Catholicism in Japan. They aimed to expand the Catholic Church in Japan, but William's presence was perceived as an obstacle to their goals. So they did almost everything possible to sway the locals in their favor to help them push William and his crew towards their end. However, the situation changed when Tokugawa Ieyasu, a powerful daimyo and one of Japan's 5 regents overseeing the country till the young heir Toyotomi Hideori came of age, took an interest in Adams and his crew. While awaiting their fate, the crew then visited Osaka Castle and were kept alive by the feudal lord. Meanwhile, the Japanese locals looted the Leifta, taking control of its contents. These included 11 chests of trade goods such as woolen cloth, glass beads, mirrors, and spectacles, as well as metal goods and weapons like nails, iron, hammers, 19 bronze cannons, 5,000 cannonballs, 500 muskets, 300 chain shot, and 3 chests filled with coats of mail. Most of these were referenced in the TV show when John Blackthorne's ship was seized, and given that the Japanese were not exactly dumb, they knew that no common trader had any business carrying such heavy weaponry around simply for protection. So their fear was only natural, and that's why they were hostile towards Adams and his crew, even in real life.
These belong to Fuji's father. They may not be much.
Did William Adams play a role in Tokugawa Ieyasu's ascension as Shogun? Just like the 1975 novel it's based on, in FX's Shogun TV series, John Blackthorne plays a crucial role in Lord Toranaga's rise as Japan's top warlord. In the book, Blackthorne's unique perspectives and unconventional thinking greatly contributes to Toranaga outsmarting his main rival, Lord Ishido, leading to the decisive Battle of Sekigahara in October 1600. The show also seems to set up for an exact same storyline, given that we have seen Blackthorne save Toranaga from danger multiple times and evade Ishido's capture at Osaka. However, you should know that these events are fictional and not completely based on William Adams' real-life involvement, because Adams was not a part of the rivalry between Ieyasu and the historical counterpart of Lord Ishido, Ishida Mitsunari. Now, circling back to his time in Osaka, the rest of Adams' crew stayed as prisoners at Osaka Castle, which differs from the show, where they initially kept them imprisoned where the shipwreck happened instead of being taken to Osaka along with John. William, on the other hand, was taken to meet Tokugawa Ieyasu. For a period of time, Adams was thrown into prison and questioned from time to time. Eventually, he was released and sent to Uraga, a harbor near Edo, where his ship and the remaining crew were also moved. Although he was not allowed to repair the Leifta and leave Japan, Adams was left to his own devices. He basically remained idle while Ieyasu fought his final battle against Ishida Mitsunari at Sekigahara, although it's said that the weapons from Adams' ship were used by Tokugawa in the battle to secure his win. Only after Ieyasu established his rule and the situation stabilized did Adams receive an invitation to join him. This marked the beginning of Adams becoming a mentor to Ieyasu about matters of the world beyond Japan.
While extending your hands to break the water. やってみせよ。
William Adams' relationship with Tokugawa Ieyasu. While William Adams didn't assist Ieyasu in becoming shogun or teach him how to swim, as depicted in the show, he did become one of his most trusted advisors. This role allowed Adams to influence Japan's interactions with European powers significantly. Despite this, Ieyasu faced internal challenges, and it wasn't until the summer of 1615, which is a decade and a half after Sekigahara, that he managed to suppress all opposition and solidify his position as the uncontested ruler of Japan. Another challenge for Ieyasu was the Portuguese, who controlled foreign trade, especially when it came to the supply of Chinese silks, essential for Japanese clothing, and lead needed to make weapons. So by 1603, Adams was made to relocate from Uraga to Edo, where Ieyasu often sought his advice. During one of these meetings, Ieyasu requested Adams to construct a Western-style ship, which he accomplished with the assistance from the Japanese locals, and in the process, he taught them Western shipbuilding methods. Now, Ieyasu urgently needed ships like this for his Asian trading ventures, so he was highly impressed with the 80-ton vessel that Adams had made, which allowed him to upgrade himself as Tokugawa's most trusted advisors. Eventually, Adams began teaching Ieyasu about mathematics, geometry, astronomy, and global politics, acting as a sort of tutor for him. When Adams constructed a second ship, which weighed a whopping 120 tons, Ieyasu was thrilled. After taking a tour of the vessel, he rewarded Adams with an estate on the Miura Peninsula and appointed him as a hatamoto, which is a direct retainer. This came with increased income and numerous households to serve him. So essentially, Adams became a minor lord. Luckily, the John Blackthorne we know and love from the show didn't have to wait this long, and was given this title right after Blackthorne helped Toranaga escape Ishido and his men. During his time as the real Tokugawa's advisor, Adams had been urging Ieyasu to engage with Dutch and English traders. Although Adams couldn't leave Japan himself, he persuaded Ieyasu to allow two of his countrymen to do so. As a result, in 1609, the first Dutch vessel since Adams' own arrived in Japan. He also played a key role in bringing the English to Japan in 1613 through various letters sent to outbound traders. By then, he had become Ieyasu's official interpreter and was instrumental in setting up an English trading factory. Adams played a crucial role in creating new trade routes and partnerships between Japan and other countries. He assisted the Dutch East India Company in establishing a presence in Japan, facilitated an English trading alliance, and helped establish trade with New Spain. However, perhaps his most significant moment came in 1611 when the Spanish arrived, offering trade on the condition that Ieyasu cut ties with the Dutch. This proposal went against Ieyasu's own policy, but he still permitted the Spanish to trade and send missionaries to Japan. So, when Ieyasu allowed the Spanish to survey Edo Bay for potential anchorage for trading ships, Adams strongly advised against it, as he was convinced that the survey was a step towards an invasion. Adams warned Ieyasu about the potential danger, emphasizing that the missionaries sent by the Spanish could convert many Japanese into Christians, and these converted Christians could then collaborate with the Spanish to overthrow the Tokugawa government. This realization dawned on Ieyasu with immense significance, thus marking the start of the crackdown on Christians in Japan, leading to the country prohibiting entry to Christians and the relocation of the Portuguese and Dutch to Nagasaki, where they were confined to an artificial island and barred from setting foot on Japanese soil. And this was all because of Adams' influence on Ieyasu, which had a profound impact on Japan's future diplomatic relations for years to come.
Shogun.
The Anene reference from the show. Jack Blackthorne is called Anene in both FX's Shogun miniseries and Clavel's novel because the Japanese struggled to pronounce his name. Anene means pilot or navigator in Japanese. Similarly, William Adams adopted a new name after receiving his estate on the Miura Peninsula and came to be known as Miura Anene, which translated to the pilot from Miura. Despite having a family back in England, Tokugawa Ieyasu prohibited Adams from leaving Japan. Instead, Adams was given two swords symbolizing the authority of a samurai. The shogun declared that William Adams the pilot was now dead because Miura Anene, a samurai, was born. This declaration essentially made Adams' wife in England a widow in the eyes of the shogunate. However, Adams managed to send regular financial support to her after 1613 through the English and Dutch companies. So given that John Blackthorne introduced himself as the pilot of the Erasmus in the show, he was called as Anene by the locals and as barbarian by the ones who felt threatened by his presence.
Are these men all marked for death? Death is the only punishment here.
What was William Adams' last life like? In his later years, Adams organized several trade missions for the English East India Company with the approval of the shogun. These expeditions, carried out in the mid to late 1610s, took him to present-day Thailand and Vietnam. William Adams died 4 years after Ieyasu on May 16, 1620, and was laid to rest in Nagasaki. He left behind his wife Mary Hine in England, as well as a son and a daughter who was born after he set sail from Rotterdam in 1598. 1938. Additionally, he had a wife in Japan and is believed to have had 2 children with her as well. In his will, Williams made sure that all his life belongings were equally divided among his 4 children.
That my ship and my men be returned to me so that I may leave and not return.
Could the real John Blackthorne ever get back home from Japan? The book Shogun concluded with Yoshi Toranaga believing that it was John Blackthorne's fate and karma to remain stuck in Japan. Similarly, William Adams also never made it back home to England. However, it should be noted that Adams was not forcibly kept in Japan indefinitely, because in 1613, Ieyasu finally granted him the permission to leave Japan permanently. When offered the opportunity to sail back to England on an English ship, Adams declined, and instead, he joined the British East India Company and led expeditions to Siam, which is now Thailand, and later ventured to Vietnam independently. Now, of course, there were several reasons why he chose to stay in Japan. Because in Japan, Adams held a significant position as a small lord after he was granted land by Ieyasu, and had households serving him, making him influential in Japanese society. Not just that, he was a diplomat in the shogun's court and one of its most trusted advisors. However, returning to England would have meant reverting to a regular sailor status without the same level of influence and prestige he enjoyed in Japan. And after spending such a long time in Japan, he felt shunned by the English and couldn't relate to them. So William decided to stay behind with his family in Japan. So that's it on the real life of John Blackthorne. But it really remains to be seen on the show how he helps Toranaga achieve his shogun status and climbs into his inner circle. What do you think about his character? Let us know in the comment box below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
To do things.
Please. There is no need for this.